All right, John.
Mark, how are you? Yes.
Where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
Actually, I was born in Sacramento. I lived there for 1 year, moved to Studio City for a year, and then was raised south of the boulevard in Sherman Oaks, California. Um, in a very nice neighborhood that some of my neighbors were Catherine Bach of Dukes of Hazzard. So it was quite a eclectic upbringing, you could say. School was a lot of actors at that time and their kids, and a lot of musicians. So I went to school with all sons of so many different, you know, actors and musicians through the years of, you know, schoolmates were like Dweezil Zappa or, you know, Jake Busey, Gary Busey's son, you know, people like that. So it was a time, I'd say, when I was probably 8 years old. My brother's 6 years older than me, and 9 or so. He started to get into smoking pot, and of course, my friends and I were all curious about it, but we didn't know how to, you know. And then my brother realized this one day, so he turned me on to some very, very good pot. And so then it was this one guy that lived on our street. He was the oldest. His name was John Tapo, and we thought, like, you know, my God, this guy, you know, he moved out from his house and moved into the garage and made this, he had this party room. It was crazy. And to get in there, he cut up the pot really fine and smush it in a 2-hit bowl, and you had to clear that whole thing in one hit to hang out there. So I was able to do that, and they had to hose me off that night. I was so hallucinating. And both my parents being from Greece, they didn't know anything about drugs. They had no idea what pot was or anything of anything was. So I had met a friend of mine named Russ Laffey, and he was my best friend at the time, by 9, 10 years old. And I remember one time when I was 10, he called me up and he said, "Hey, I found my mom's boyfriend's cocaine and Quaalude supply," you know. And I said, "Oh, great, I'll be right over." So I tell my brother, like, "Hey, I'm going over to Russ's house to do a bunch of cocaine." And he's like, "All right, be safe." That's all he said. Um, well, I get over there and Russ pulls out this bag that, I mean, must have been a lot of cocaine, I'd have to say. Probably, if I were to think about it, I would say at least an ounce, looking back. He goes, "I took 15 Quaaludes, so here, catch up with me." So I took 9. And this is after school.
At what age?
This is after school.
At what age?
10 years old. He was 11. And Bugs Bunny's on, you know, cartoons. You're after school watching cartoons. And I'm making out these lines on the glass table. And I didn't know that you had to chop the stuff, you know. So I'm making out these lines that are humongous. And we're throwing these huge rocks, you know. And I mean, next thing we know, it's nighttime. I don't know, we end up in his sister's room. And he's like tunnel vision, like a million miles away. And I got this line on, I'm like, Russ, do you want the last line? He's like, no, I'm okay. My mom's boyfriend's home. And the mom's boyfriend comes in and he looks at us because he's looking for a stash, and he didn't say anything. We just left, I guess. I don't know what happened. All I know is that we had walked 5 blocks to my house on Ventura Boulevard. This must be at probably 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. You have people coming home from work, and we're punching each other, throwing each other into the windows of every store down Ventura Boulevard in Sherman Oaks. Nobody goes, here's a 10 and 11-year-old kid that look out of their mind. We turn on my street, and my friend Russ must have been walking like this. He was on Quaalude so much. And I was going, dun, 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 dun. And I thought I was running like a $6 million man so fast. My brother is at the end of the street. Our house is towards the end. And he took one look and he said, "Oh my fucking God." You know, he had to get rid of the neighbors. So he tried locking us in our garage, which was downstairs. Our house, we had stairs that led up to this really nice house in Sherman Oaks. And we got out of there. And so he was very athletic. He used to ride his bike for like 20 miles a day. So he got on his 10-speed. He couldn't find us anywhere. We walked down Ventura Boulevard, punching each other, throwing each other into parked cars from Hazeltine, and if anybody knows Ventura Boulevard, all the way to Coldwater Canyon, which is a very long walk. And we get to a friend of his house, and the babysitter of his friend comes out and sees us, and she probably flipped a gourd. I mean, she probably went, oh my God. Well, my friend Russ just went into withdrawal, he overdosed right there. He was throwing up, he was going into convulsions. So she called an ambulance for him, and she trying to get my number out of me to call my mother, and I couldn't say it. And she's like, I can sing it. So I think I did something like 7, 8. And she's like 7, 8. I'm like 3, 1. About an hour. I don't know how long it took, but I got it out. 7, 8, 3, 1, 5, 6, 8. My mom shows up, and she goes, "Can you walk to the car?" And I say, "Sure." And I take one step forward, and I just fall straight back, hit the ground. She, with the babysitter, I guess, puts me in the car. They drive me back to my house. And I don't know how I made it upstairs. I guess my brother must have helped me. My dad's home by this time. He's a very conservative man, you could say, extremely conservative. But my brother goes, "I got John." And my parents said, okay. And they just went to the den and watched TV and didn't think a second thought about it. They probably had no idea what was going on. So my brother did not know what to do with me. And by that time, I had been playing guitar since I was 7. So I was very into playing guitar. And so my brother made me play Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze all night long. And he said every time I got this look in my face, like this devilish look, or I was getting out there, he'd slap me as hard as he could, just slap. And keep playing Purple Haze. So I kept playing, dun, 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 slap. And the next morning, I got up to go to school, and I was still, I think that entire week, out of my friggin' mind. I can't remember anything of even going to school or even how I got through that. I have no clue. So that was the first introduction to, I'd say, harder drugs at 10 years old. So by that point, I'd say that I was much more interested in experimenting with other substances at that point. I wanted to try acid. I wanted to try, this, because acid sounded cool to me, like blue dragon, like you're going to see a blue dragon or something. I mean, it's a kid's mind, And because I was maybe a little hung out with a 6-year-old brother and all his friends, and my brother was a dealer at his high school, Notre Dame High School. So this is already, got another light, that would be great. Notre Dame High School, so he was selling pot to all his friends. And so I basically, by the time I was in high school, my friend that happened with, oh, thank you very much. His mother, she was doing a lot of cocaine herself, and smoking cocaine became a big thing. So when we were, I'd say, he was 15, I was 14, we would take her bank card and clear her bank out of all the money to buy coke. So she stopped that by trying to maintain us on a half a gram day habit. But we would freebase with her, I would tell my parents, I'm going to go sleep over at Russ's house. Oh, okay, no problem. And we'd go to Russ's house, and his mom, Connie, would cook the cocaine up, and we were freebasing, and this went on all through high school. And we had, boy, we smoked a lot of cocaine, I'd have to say, at that time. So I had quite a habit going.
This is freebase, not crack.
No, this is freebasing it.
Before crack took off.
Yeah, before crack took off. My dad had moved up in the executive world, where now he was working for running an insurance company that he was president of, where he was, we were in the $1 million range of the family at that point. So my dad's wallet, he'd put above the refrigerator at night, and my mom would put her purse there, and each of them would have probably about $2,000, $3,000 in there. I'd just go and reach in there, and I'd take that money out, and I'd go score. And my dad would just go, to my mom, oh, Helen, I'm short, can you go to the bank and pull me out another $5,000? They didn't think anything of it. They didn't even notice it going on like that. So this went on all the way through art college, where I was just doing massive amounts of that. And that soon led to one of the people I was buying it from was heroin. They decided to, turn me on to that. And I thought, this drug made me ill when I first did it. I mean, it's like rat poison. I snorted it, I throwing up. But I thought, my guitar heroes all did this, and I thought, well, this is going to make you a better player. I mean, Jimmy Page and, Keith Richards and stuff. I mean, there's got to be something behind it, the reason why they're doing this type of stuff. Then turned on to slowly playing around with that for quite a few years. I got into a band when I was 18. I formed a band, and we got the singer, and she knew about that because she was signed to XXX Records with Jane's Addiction at the time, with the Chili Peppers, in a band called Love Dog, all-girl punk band that was very big. Played Scream, which was a very big club in downtown LA. They played big shows. So her boyfriend auditioned for us as a keyboard player. He ended up being a keyboard player for the Wallflowers, and now is with the Foo Fighters. So she said, no heroin, anybody on heroin? So I stopped for that point. And we got a record deal that didn't go through. Ended up playing more and more. I played with a few acts. Then it all stopped, and I started working as a scenic artist. And then cocaine got replaced with crystal meth. I got turned on to that, and that put cocaine aside. It made that seem like nothing. Speed was, back then, unbelievably good and unbelievably strong. And I mean, you do a little bit, you're flying for days. And I had a lot of work. I was getting paid $20,000 for murals I was doing. So I'd be up for 2 weeks working as many jobs as I could and running around and all of this. And at 30 years old, my dad finally got hip to what was going on. And he decided that at that point, he was going to get me clean. I seem to have screwed up my whole career at that point because I had a job doing these blue sky and cloud ceilings in this big mansion in Beverly Hills, and we were subcontracted with a lot of other people, and they just weren't paying me my second payment. And it got to be where it was a lawsuit situation. So I went to my dad. I said, hey, Dad, could you help me out with this? And I thought, this would be great. He can help me out with this. And And I had this, this time this heroin problem now. I'm strung out. So I thought, okay, I'll tell my dad, and maybe it's the right thing to do. Well, it didn't turn out to be the right thing to do. I don't know many 31-year-olds that get grounded by their fathers, but I did. So I went through a horrible period of time working different jobs for fine art packing houses and trying to keep this heroin habit. So I decided to go to a methadone clinic, and they started me on a maintenance program, and I had no idea what that meant at the time. And you're supposed to even get on maintenance, you're supposed to have proof that you've done heroin or been on methadone or something for a year. Well, I tried a detox program for 1 day, 6 months earlier. And they said, we're just going to slide on that. We're just going to, let you go ahead and get on the methadone maintenance program. How many milligrams do you want to start on? I go, I don't know. What should I start on? They said, we suggest 80. I'll put it this way. 5 milligrams of methadone is incredibly strong. 80 milligrams to get on methadone, the chances of getting off of that is not. You're going to be on that for life. It's so powerful. It's overpowers heroin. It overpowered, heroin couldn't even get me high anymore. I had started a Xanax, Klonopin, Soma addiction, because that would be the only thing that would work with that. And for 15 years, I was in that clinic every morning, going there between 5 and 7 for the hours they were open to get my dose of methadone. And one time I missed it at Christmas time, and if you miss it for 3 days, you have to have a doctor see you to get restarted on it again. And well, it was Christmas time. He was out of town. I went 9 days. It was probably the worst withdrawal. I think I can't even. I blacked out most of it. It's so horrible. It was unfathomable. Well, my father ended up dying of cancer in 2003, and at that point, we got some life insurance money of his. So I went to go do what they call a rapid detox at the Weissman Clinic. Now, to do heroin, it's a 1-day event. If you're on methadone, it's a 3-day event. It costs $18,000. And what they do is they take you to this hospital. They put you on a morphine drip the minute you get in there. And then when you're ready to do the rapid detox, they take you and they put you under anesthesia. They put a tube down your throat, strap you to a table, and fill your stomach full of naltrexone, which is an anti-opiate. Like if you use it, it makes you sick, so that all your withdrawals that would happen over a year or 2 years happen in 6 hours. So for 6 hours, supposedly they had 5 black guys holding me down. I broke the straps. A mess. All I know is I woke up in a tub and up to my neck in diarrhea, just completely. And they gave me vitamins the whole week. They said, you need to cleanse your system. It's, you really need to cleanse. And I had the runs all week. I thought I cleansed the system. I had no idea that, this drug backs you up quite a bit. So this nurse comes out, he cleans me up, and this happens 7 more times. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is, a lot. And I am feeling everything, like so sensitive that so it's like, time to take a shower. I'm like, shower, great, a shower. They wheel me to the shower, and it's like nails hitting me. I was like getting a shower of nails. And then they took me outside in the sun, and that might as well has been like a ray gun shooting me in the eyes. I I was like, get me out of the fucking sun. If you can fucking do this, anything. And I get back to my room, and I must have thought that it was a smart thing to do to call every friend's mother that I knew and say that I was clean at 3 a.m. Just seemed like a smart thing to do at the time, I think. All I know is my brother and my mom came to pick me up. My brother thought I lost my mind. He thought that whatever process they did, that I was crazy. And they told me to go, you're as clean as the day you're born, by the way. There's not a trace of it in your bones, in your marrow, nowhere. You're as clean as you can ever be. And you just take this naltrexone every day. You won't have any cravings. And make sure that you did clean your house of all heroin, anything, the paraphernalia, right? Because if you come back, you will have a problem with that. And I thought I cleaned it well enough. Well, I came home and there must have been some foil with some heroin on it in a straw somewhere. I could smell that the minute I walked in the door. I started throwing up. Put me instantly into withdrawals. I was like, ugh! Mom, get that out. You know, cleared that out. So I stayed clean for a short while, and then I'd say, I don't know, after a year or so, I kind of laxed on taking this naltrexone. And one day, I had stopped taking it long enough where, like that, I needed to score heroin again. After not thinking about it for a year and a half, I mean, didn't have a craving in the world, didn't want it, couldn't stand the smell of it. I mean, it made me throw up. I'd never touch it again. Stopped taking that, and all of a sudden, there was that need to get some. So I had bought a 20 bag of heroin. Went into my bathroom, locked the door, put it on some foil. Didn't even think, I don't think I finished taking that hit. And all I know is that my mom broke into the bathroom, slapping me awake. I was pulled into a cold shower. It was like, I mean, that one half a hit of whatever was so strong that it was like, must have been like, you know, first time I've ever, you know, trying something that strong. And of course, that led to wanting to do it again. So I ended up doing that again. And of course, my father thought helping me out of a good way was doing that, was telling all my clients that I was on drugs. Because he never was a big fan of art or music or anything like that. The way he was raised in Greece was, it's another story for another day. So I got blacklisted. So I just became, as I told him, I said, well, I'm going to be the best heroin addict you've ever met. And my father and I went, you know, clashed. That was before he died, but after he died, I just kept that going, that attitude. And I moved from smoking it to injecting it. And next thing I know, it's almost 35 years later that still to this day, I have a problem with it, and I try many different ways to get off. And it is after you hit 30 years of doing this drug, it creeps into you in ways that I can't explain. It's if it was easy for people, then everybody that ever got hooked on it would be able to get off of it. And everybody's reasoning for getting on that drug doesn't really matter. But once you venture into that, and whether you start off with doing Norcos or Oxycontins, and you can't get those anymore from a doctor, and you decide to try it, and you think that I don't need to use a needle, I could smoke this, and smoking it is okay, and you don't realize that you're signing on to a lifestyle of hell. Is the best way I can put it. It's an awful experience because this is not something that you can just use occasionally and say, oh, I'm fine. You need this to stay well. You don't get high anymore. You just do it to be normal. You do it so your nose doesn't run, so your eyes are not watering. You're not sneezing, machine gun sneezes in front of people and, getting very sick. So, I had to do, 4 shots before I came here so my hand wouldn't be shaking. It would be smooth, so I wouldn't be like that. Just to be able to talk about it. Interesting enough. And I told my girlfriend, make me some more, because I might need some to even talk about this. And she had them ready for me, but the Uber came and I just said, fuck it, I'll rough it. So this is roughing it for me, actually, right now. My nose is a little bit runny and I'm a little bit, would be at the point when I get home, I'll, be running to that for sure.
How old are you now?
I'm 52 years old.
52. And do you have any hope of ever getting clean from, is it heroin or fentanyl now?
I don't use the fentanyl based stuff, and I have testers that you get from the needle exchange to not do that. I have been in this world for so long that I have been able to work so many different angles. I have done so much. I kept a moral standard that I wouldn't do certain things. I don't believe in stealing. I won't steal from anybody. I'm not a thief. I hate thieves. A lot of people, that's what they are first, and then they do heroin second. It seems to be their big thing is to steal from somebody or steal from some house or something. I would more or less got good connections at good prices and would be the middleman between people. You want to get an ounce, I can get it for you for $600. I could get the best heroin you've ever tried for less than $25 a gram, or $19 a gram. You cannot beat that. Just give me a little bit off the top. Now I'm on disability. I'm able to afford an amount that supplies me healthily at that. So to try to get off at this point, my girlfriend, I've been with her for 4 years. She was a heroin addict for many, many years. And with her life mate, who died it's now 6 years ago, his name was Jimmy Bain. He was a bass player for Dio. He never got off of it. He died while on tour on a boat. So she had gotten very sick, and she had COPD very bad, and she ended up kicking in the hospital. And she said, I never want to feel that again. So hasn't touched it since. So I get it, I give it to her, and she gives me my allotted amount each day, and she is trying to wean me down to a point where, and at that point, we really are kind of playing it by ear. We don't know what to do, really, to tell you the truth. I am not quite at the point where I want to stop, because there's certain things at 52 in my life that has not happened. I'm not particularly happy with where my life has gone and the things I've done and what I've not experienced and what I could have. So sometimes I just, want to just go into that nice warm place where I don't have to have any worries, any problems, no stress of nothing. I have a singer I've worked with for a long time. Her name's Morag, and she's fantastic. Her story is a story that is her own, and I won't even get into that. But she's very talented, but she will not want me to be on that in any way, shape, or form. She says that she can notice my playing is a tad off when I play. So if we're rehearsing, I won't do it when I'm with her. So if I go to her house for 3 days to play, I will just rough it. I will go through whatever I have to be able to write the songs we write, and play my parts the best I can. Whether my nose is dripping all over my guitar, I don't care, because I do play better if I'm not on it, and I do paint better if I'm not on it. Actually, I do everything better if I'm not on it. If I'm on it, my posture is different. My shoulders slouch in a different way. My language is a little different. If you know me well, my body movements, it's the littlest things, but you can pick up on it. You can see those things, and it's obvious as day. And I can see it in anybody else I come across. I know immediately. If I meet somebody, I know immediately if they're using or not. I can watch a television show and just go, that person's been using for 15 years at least. I mean, it's and it's an epidemic that's so funded by our government that they don't want anybody to get off heroin. It was a time when doctors could write scripts for you of Norcos or Oxycontin. Now, this hurt the cartel greatly, and even though the cartel may bring a lot of heroin over the border, 96% of it comes from Afghanistan. And it is funded by private armies with Gucci Kevlar in their beards, and they got the fields there, and they're for zinc, copper, and heroin. That's the main thing coming out of Afghanistan. That's why the war is never stopping there, because that heroin is coming there, and it's basically pure. It's the strongest heroin probably this city has ever seen. They have put runners out in every middle class, upper class neighborhood that you call somebody, and within 10 minutes, they're at your house delivering you whatever you want. That's how easy it is. You can just walk around, and they will drive up next to you, and they can tell you're a heroin addict and say, here's my number, call me. And I'll bring it to you. That's how crazy it is. So, and these doctors writing these scripts, the CDC, the government has gotten down so hard on them that they've lost their licenses and have all been charged because if people have OD'd, parents have got charges against them, and they've lost their licenses, and no longer can they write these. Any doctor you go to the hospital and you break your arm and you're in bad pain, they may give you some opiates, but they will not give you anything to take home with. No way. Not any hospital, anywhere. And after 35 years of using it, I have found myself in a lot of hospitals. Shooting heroin leads to abscesses, leads to many types of infections that I have had. I got surgeries. At one point, I got called from Santa Monica, UCLA, saying that I had 85 emergency room visits in 1 year for abscesses to be lanced. And when I talk about an abscess being lanced, I'm talking about the size of like a softball on my arm. I mean, it's, I have gone into the hospital one time at 41. They gave me a 10% chance of living. I was in septic shock. And that's somebody calling me on my phone. And I don't know how I made it through. A lot of faith and a lot of belief in that there's a purpose for me and a reason for me to be on this planet, that I lived. It's the only way I can think that I got through that situation. One time I was in the hospital with a blood infection poisoning that they said, we have no antibiotic that can cure this infection. I'm sorry, you're going to be here till you die. It could take a week, it could take 2 years. I was there in ICU, temperature of probably, I know they put me on ice. I was hallucinating. I mean, I was on my deathbed. There was no chance I was coming out. I was 34 years old. And I had taken over my dad's business at that time as an insurance broker. I was a teacher and an insurance broker, and I had hired an employee who's Armenian, and she went to this church, and it's called Saint Nectarios, the Saint of Healing. There's a bone in Armenia that supposedly is 2,000 years old, and it secretes oil once a year, and they mix it with holy water. This church opened up, and they had this holy water, and she brought it into me. She came in my room. I thought she was the devil. She was half purple and half green in her face, and she was holding my dead cat who was alive. And the whole time she's doing the cross on my wrists with the oil, my forehead. I didn't know this. I thought she was, I thought it was maddening, you know, like, what are you doing? You know, she scared me. I thought she was the devil, and I didn't realize that my fever had reached a point where my blood was boiling. The next morning, I woke up on the second floor, and I was out of there. What I would really point out about this is that it is not glorious. It is not anything that, whether it's, you know, to somebody who has lots of money can afford it, to your person out here on the street that's suffering for it, it's probably the worst thing that can ever happen to somebody, and it's not something to be proud of, and in no way, I hope anything I said glorifies it in any way, because it's not a glorified thing at all. It's actually probably one of the worst things that can happen to you in your life, and it brings nothing but wreckage, and it'll tear up every relationship, love you have, if you don't, you know, eventually put this down. And I'm hoping that I will put this down. And at this point in time, I'm not there yet, but I have faith that I will get there. And I really hope that I do reach that point, because I don't want my ending to be that be my legacy, and that be, you know, of all the talent I have, kicked out the door because I just needed to have dope. So, it's, whether you do it for 2 years or 25, it takes its toll. And, drugs seem like a fun thing, but alcohol, drugs, whatever you want to use, it's just not going to take you anywhere but down, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. And it's sad, because I see a lot of young people jumping into that because they haven't experienced anything in life. They want to experience, something. And, and it's the saddest thing to see somebody at 30 years old starting an addiction like that. And you just know, like, going, God, I'm 52, you have no idea what you just got yourself into. You just signed a deal with the devil. And that's what I consider it to be, pretty much. So, that's the moral of the story of that. That's best I can say.
All right. John, thank you so much for sharing your story.
No problem.
Super interesting. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
When you're young, a lot of times, especially for young men, we don't take things as seriously as maybe they are in everyday life. And a very stark reality was brought to me when I was young. I was 20, 21 years old. Someone I knew well, Billy Petruccelli, he went by Butch, had grown up on Taylor Street, the same neighborhood I'm from, and his family originated in the same village that my father grew up in, and my grandfather and my godfather, just east of Rome in a region called Abruzzi. And in Abruzzi, it doesn't get the fame that Rome gets because of the culture and whatnot. But Abruzzi is where probably the most vicious mob guys come out of, especially the ones that wind up in the United States. And that stems from poverty and whatnot. Well, Billy, who later took on the name Butch for whatever reason, I'm not sure, was a collector, much like I followed in his footsteps as a collector. I followed his footsteps most of my young life. And Butch worked with a crew of bad guys that were known as the Wild Bunch. And their forte was to take other people that were involved in crime and they would collect street tax. And so what would happen is if you were loaning money, gambling, whatever, they would go and tax you your 25% and bring the money back. Well, as it turns out, Butch decided to start keeping some of that money. And what he wasn't privy to was that his main partner, Harry Alleman, who was another hitman for the mob, his uncle was Joey Ferriola, who, as it turns out, was the number 2 in command of the mob for a long time. And so when Harry went to jail, but Butch didn't, the ritual is that we collect money and we set a certain amount aside for the guys that have gone to jail or incapacitated, whatever. And so I was summoned to a warehouse in an area called Bridgeport, which is predominantly Irish. I learned later that there's a reason why they did it in an Irish neighborhood. And I didn't think anything of it. But when I got there with my cousin Dino, we saw Butch, and we saw Rocco and Felice, and we saw Al Taco, bosses, big bosses. And they were there with Ferriola. And so it's obvious something's going on, but we thought maybe Butch was being elevated. So when they started to talk to Butch, it became apparent Butch was in trouble, a lot of trouble. And a fellow named Frank Calabrese, who was a known muscle for the mob, walked up behind him, just as cool as the other side of the pillow, and threw a half-inch rope around his neck and pulled it tight. And when he pulled it tight, Arturo LaPietra, who ran that section of the city, took a acetylene torch and lit it while we stood there and watched, and proceeded to burn his. And he wiggled and tried to get loose, but Calabrese is a big, strong guy. He burned his, and then he slowly worked his way up the body. And as this guy's screaming bloody murder, he proceeds to burn his face. He's burning his eye sockets, burns his mouth, pushes it as the lips burn off, and burns the tissue from his mouth until he's basically melting. And as he slowly stopped screaming, and you could tell that he was probably about to die, Frank Calabrese with straight razor. They let him go limp. Then another fellow who I didn't know, nice-sized butcher knife, stabbed him 3 times in the heart. Put him in a sleeping bag, and they carried him out to the car. And it was at that point, my aha moment in the mob hit me like a ton of bricks. This is what happens when you break these rules. So they took Butch's body and they put it in a sleeping bag and they put it in the back of his car and intentionally drove it to another neighborhood, which is all Mexican, behind where the county jail is in Chicago. And they just left him there. And this happened in like December. They didn't find him until like March. So by now he's stanky. Just rotted corpse. Some civilian just happened to smell him, tapped on the glass, saw a lump, called the police. Police came and said, fuck. So that's where Butch went. But the reality and the realization that when you fuck up, this is what happens, regardless of your connections. Because Butch was a riser, man. He was doing good. He was bringing in a lot of money. But you don't steal from family. And it was from that point forward I realized that no matter how crazy I am with my personal income, money that belonged to people above me to the penny had to be right. It wasn't long after that I was sent to Philadelphia to pick up a lot of money. Wound up getting ambushed, shot 5 times because the money bag was light when we came back. It wasn't light on purpose. It just happened. But rules are rules. And as that realization sets in with you, paranoia sets in. And what you see in the movies, when you see in Goodfellas, when everybody's patting each other on the back, what they're really thinking is this fucker going to shoot me in the back of my head? You never ride in the front seat of a car. You never go up the escalator first. You always make sure you're in the back of the line, not the front, for anything, because that's exactly how it happens. And watching Butch Petruccelli get burned to death and then slit and then stabbed, the brutal reality that these are family members and friends that you've known your whole life, there's nothing you can do. You can't even say anything. You just have to follow what you're told to do. As time went on and I collected money, the use of violence is really a last resort, because once you hurt somebody, then they're not going to pay you. They're going to run to the cops. So unless you're willing to kill them, you really don't want to put your hands on them. One different situation in that regard, there's a guy, he's a mob guy, but he owned trucks. A lot of trucking business, a lot of bars, a lot of restaurants in the Chicago outfit. A guy named Jimmy Pellegrino was also dealing drugs on the side, which is a big no-no. The Chicago mob is very tight about no drugs. Certain other rules that New York, Philadelphia condone, we don't, we condemn it. And Jimmy Pellegrino was in cahoots with who ultimately became infamous through my life, the cop, Steve Manning. And the deal was that Jimmy was giving Steve money, and Steve was ripping off and killing these drug dealers, the Puerto Rican drug dealers on the northwest side of the city. And he was taking the cocaine that he was stealing and selling it to Jimmy for what was fair market value. And then one time, Steve decided to just rip Jimmy off, because what could he do? He can't shoot a fucking cop. And so Jimmy started to squawk about it. And, hey man, you got me for 38 grand. I want my money back. In the 80s, that's a lot of money. And so Steve Manning said, okay, I'll make it right. I tell you what, give me some more money. I'm gonna get you 3 keys for the price of 2. And we're gonna make it all right. So when all this was going down, I knew Jimmy. I knew all the players involved in this case. And so, as it turned out, Jimmy wanted a follow car when he went to meet with Steve. And so when he went to meet with Steve, he met him down on the southwest side of the city, down where he was from. And they got out of the car, it's nighttime, and they went behind a closed fast food restaurant, not a national chain, just a local joint. And Steve pretended to drop his keys. And when Jimmy bent down to pick up the keys, Steve shot him right in the back of the head. Pop, pop. Jack in the box, out goes the weasel. Jimmy's dead like Fred. And Steve had the balls to take his money and just leave him. And then Steve drove away, we drove away, and then Steve made a U-turn. Now, I know these guys, so we made the U-turn too. I didn't know what he was doing, but maybe, we're supposed to help. We're there to help. He wraps him up in a tarp, puts a towel around his head so he doesn't bleed too much in the tarp, and threw in the trunk of his own car, drove his car all the way to the north side of the city, and dumped him over the Lawrence Avenue Bridge into the Des Plaines River. Just easy breezy, like it was nothing. And then Steve turns to us and says, let's go get a pizza. And we were like, oh, fuck no, man, Jimmy's our friend. He's like, come on, man, I'm fine. So we went to Home Run Inn. And literally, to watch this guy eat, like it was nothing after just popping somebody he'd known for years, in my mind, started the divide between, am I really in the right line of work? Or do I just love the money so much I'm going to stick with it? And it was that realization at that moment that at any moment, for any reason, it could be you. That's one of the reasons mob guys never carry a lot of cash. In the old days, in the 50s and 60s, we always hid it under our carpets. And then with the advent of different ways to hide it, we washed it through various businesses. But you got too much cash and somebody needs it, guess what? That's it.
Even though Soft White Underbelly consists of a lot of videos, it's really still a photography project to me. And if you appreciate the photography, sometimes it's difficult to enjoy it when it's scrolling down the screen, which is the only option I had in this horizontal format on YouTube. So last year we came out with the first Soft White Underbelly book, which is a collection of the best portraits from the thousands of interviews I've done. Each portrait in this book is accompanied by an interesting quote from the person's interview.
Oh my God.
There's more.
Wow. These aren't as bad as I thought. I look like a witch.
I will not be reprinting this book when it sells out. So once it's gone for good. You can order yours at softwhiteunderbelly.org. $125, $150 for a signed copy. And thank you for watching.
Turns out Steve Manning, same guy, had a fake jewelry store. He had multiple storefront businesses around the city. He's a cop. He had whatever he wants. Chicago cop. So he had a fake jewelry store. And he was sent out to Vegas to get some money from Vegas. Back in those days, Tony Spilotro ran Las Vegas. They since made a movie about it called Casino. And so Steve, a cop, can get on an airplane with his badge. He just doesn't even check in. He carries his gun with him. So he goes out to get like $250,000. So his share is going to be 50 for bringing it back. And he went with a guy named Ricky Randazzo. And so on the way back, they found Ricky's head in the desert outside Las Vegas. His body wound up in a duffel bag, and they burned it in the jewelry store. They had a melting oven so they could melt down jewelry, and they just systematically I'm watching them, put the arms in, put the hands in, put the legs in. Torso was wrapped real tight with cellophane, kind of stunk when the plastic burned. They shoved them right in that furnace. And it wasn't a big opening, but they kept shoving the body parts in until it was all burnt up, scraped them up. It's like cremation. They took it, put it in a plastic bag, took it out on a boat, and dumped it in Lake Michigan. Later on, as it turns out, Steve was shaking down some of the strip club owners on the southwest side of the city, which is ultimately what got him, after I got him out of prison, behind the testimony that I was involved in, got him back out of prison. He went right back to it, had his restaurant storefront, northwest side, up in an all-Swedish neighborhood called Andersonville. And the restaurant wasn't a restaurant, it was just a storefront. But in the basement, they had a meat grinder. And it's like a garbage disposal, but industrial. And literally watched him take 2 separate bodies, shot in the head, and stuff them like a wood chipper as this thing was grinding and grinding and grinding. And the parts were just going into like meatloaf. Garbage bagged them up, Chicago River, here we go. Pulled up on the South Street Bridge, pulled over, and he literally just dumped them in the river like it was nothing. Pulled away, and that was the end of that. And one time I asked him, I said, dude, how do you sleep at night? He's like, it doesn't bother me. He says, a beautiful house in Hoffman Estates. I got a condo downtown on the lake. It's just business. And then I came to realize that I was sleeping well at night too, which really started to trouble me. Am I a psychopath? Am I just incapable of rationing right and wrong? But the reality is, if that's what you grew up with, that's what you know. And if that's what you know, sleeping at night's not hard. Eating right afterwards wasn't really that hard. It's not something you go home and tell your wife and kids about, but it's just what you do for a living. That's your occupation. And it was not that big of a deal. So for me personally, the telltale moment that I was in the wrong line of work and that I needed to start backing out slowly, very slowly. There was a guy in Chicago named Alex Dana. And Alex Dana owns the Rosebud Restaurant Group. The Rosebud, Carmine's, very successful restaurants. Phil Stefano's, he bought him out. Very successful places in Chicago. And Alex Dana was a big restaurateur, but he was also gangstered up. And so I don't even know what the transgression was, but his guy, a cop, that would go from restaurant to restaurant to restaurant and take the zipper bags of money, bring them all to the corporate office, was an asshole, and nobody liked him. But he pissed off somebody, and I later found out that it was Rocco and Felice, who was out in Cicero, but he was one of the main guys in the Chicago mob for his entire life. And something had happened between them, and I got the phone call. And he said, I want you to take Nicky Gio, who was a good friend of ours, my age, and my cousin Dino and myself. And they said, don't kill him, but hurt him. And so we knew where the corporate office was, where he took all the money. And so we sat out there on a Sunday morning after he'd make his rounds, and we were there early, like at 4 o'clock in the morning, because you never knew what time, because he never ran the same route twice. So I had a golf club, I had a chipping wedge, and Nicky Gio had a bat, and my cousin Dino had a bat, but it was sawed off. And so this prick pulls up, he's got a Cadillac that he didn't pay for, went to Joe Perillo, a mob guy that owns a car dealership. And this dumbass comes out and he's got these bags and he's swinging them like a kid swings a doll coming out of the laundromat. And as he's walking the 100 yards from his car to the front door, he's reaching in his pocket for his keys, and that was the moment. And I sprinted up behind him with a chipping wedge, and I caught him right in the forehead. Bink! And when it shot his head back, he got hit like 2 or 3 times with the bats. But on my second swing, when I went to swing into him, into his head, the chipping wedge got caught behind his ear, and I couldn't get the fucking thing out. And I'm shaking his head, and his head's bobbing around, and blood and cottage cheese are going everywhere. And I keep trying to get the fucking chipping wedge out of his head, and it's just not coming out. So I just say, fuck it. So I just start jiggling it as hard as I possibly can, because I figure if nothing else, I'm going to scramble his brains. So I'm pushing this fucker as far as I can behind his ear. I'm jerking it back and forth and back and forth. Shit's flying everywhere. And so once it was obvious he was unconscious, I just dropped the chipping wedge and left it there. And it was still in his head. I remember looking back, and I don't know why, because I didn't even have beef with this guy, but I went, I spit on him. And it just made me feel like, okay, that's it. I've met my burden. From this point on, I'm just not doing this shit anymore. It's money, but no more violence. Because I didn't even know this prick. He could have been a good family guy when he got home. He could have loved his kids. I didn't know. But when you're told to do it, you robotically do it. And if you don't do it, you get it. And so it was at that moment that I realized that my life in the Chicago mob, you can't just run away, but you slowly ease out. Start taking less assignments to go out of town. Stop doing the things that could wind up in the newspapers. And I still worried that maybe I was psychopathic, because it didn't bother me one bit. Like, not at all. I mean, I kind of felt bad that the guy might be orphaning some kids or widowing a wife, but at the end of the day, I didn't know his kids. So it's just business. So along the way, we eventually get indicted, and we all go to court. And in federal court, we get convicted of the RICO statute, which is Racketeering Influence Corruption Organization. And the RICO statute was built to break up the mob by Robert Kennedy. And because they couldn't get individual crimes, if they could get 5 or more people to conspire to commit a crime on tape or somehow through testimony, then they could convict you as a consortium instead of as an individual, and then that was a mandatory life sentence. So there I'm sitting, dealing with that in the county jail and in the federal lockup, depending on which court I was going to. And the FBI approached me through a series of events. I wound up in a strange office, and I'm talking to Tom Gankars of the FBI, and I know not to tell him anything, but one thing leads to another, and I wind up wearing the wire against the dirty Chicago cops, which were really their targets. They already had the mob guys, but nobody could infiltrate the cops. But since I had known Steve and Gary Engel and the guys that crew so well, and I would go with them to do the crimes like the Jimmy Pellegrino murder, since I knew everybody, the FBI knew that they would talk openly in front of me without hesitation. So I wear the wire. They get indicted, not just for the Chicago crimes, but Kansas City crimes, Miami crimes, Las Vegas crimes. They get indicted for all sorts of shit. And so I testify. I testify in all these trials in different parts of the country. And the cops all wind up with the death penalty in at least one jurisdiction, but then hundreds of years everywhere else for whatever litany of participation they had in these various events. And then it came time to go into witness protection. And in the middle of the night, one night, unbeknownst to me, untold to me, they swooped down on my wife and my 2 young sons, very young sons, and essentially just took the house, put them in the back of a U.S. Marshal's car, and drove them to an airport and flew them to Washington, D.C., to a place where there's no windows, no outside contact, nothing, for like 30 days. And while they sat in there, I didn't know where they were. They could have been alive or dead, I didn't know. But it didn't take long to understand that the marshals don't play from the bureaucratic standpoint. But as it applies to the custody standpoint, I still had 6 more months to do because of the deal I'd worked out for my cooperation. I went to a witness unit down in Phoenix, Arizona. It's a prison, but it's really a hotel, and it's plush. You eat whatever you want. They give you enough money to buy your own groceries. Nobody touches your food but you. You cook it yourself. That way nobody's getting poisoned in there. And then the day comes where they come to you. You know what day you're going home. And you don't know where you're going. They lay out a big map. And they say, okay, you can't go here because you broke the law here. And you can't go here because you broke the law there. And by the time you're done pinpointing all the states you've broken the law, you're down to fucking Idaho, Montana, whatever. So they send my dumb ass to Houston, Texas, where I fit in like never. So I get off the airplane and my marshal's standing there like a fucking goofball. Tall, gangly cowboy with bow legs and wearing a leisure suit. And like the moment we saw each other, it's like, I fucking hate this guy. And he felt the same way. And so it was like a life of fucking mental misery. He wanted me to go to work a 9-to-5 job, be a square, make minimum wage, don't do anything too crazy, don't dress nice, no more suits. You're gonna wear untucked polo shirts and Dickies pants. It was horrible, fucking horrible. But the reality is, they do all that, not to keep us safe. They fucking hate us, we're rats. They do it so that when the time of reckoning comes for these cops to go to their trial, when they march us into the courtroom, 4 marshals in front of us, 2 usually got shotguns, long arms of some sort. There's usually 1 on either side of us and 2 behind us. And they march you in like a fucking, like a army parade in front of Castro in Cuba. And they sit you on the witness stand and they all stand behind you like this. Like who the fuck's gonna hurt you in a courtroom? Nobody. Like what are you gonna do? Throw a paper wad at you or crumpled paper? Nothing. But the jury is now so afraid of the defendant that he's fucked. That's why witness protection is in existence, because nobody stays in it. Nobody. You get out, they give you $5,000, which you've already got in your pocket anyway. You stash money all over the country while you're going through the court process. But they give you $5,000, they wipe you completely clean. Like if somebody tried to do a deep dive on me, you're not gonna find out shit. And that's just the way it goes. The old me, fingerprints are gone, Social Security history is gone, everything, medical records gone, U.S. military's gone. Everything's gone. And they issue this new shit. And then you got to go out and find a job with a Social Security number that's 3 days old and you're fucking 40 years old. And you go to an employer and say, hey, I've only had a Social Security card for 3 days, but maybe you trust me and hire me. It's laughable. But the marshals don't fucking care. All they care about is that dog and pony show come court day. And it's, the budget for that is insane. I was involved in a trial that I was subpoenaed by a lawyer in Chicago who represented, after Steve Manning came off of his death row case through the appellate process, not because I erred, but because the judge allowed the wife of Jimmy Pellegrino to say some things about Steve Manning that weren't part of the record. So he gets a new trial. I refuse to testify. He gets sprung. So he hires some civil rights attorneys. They sue the FBI. I get subpoenaed to testify. And in the process of testifying in this case, the ultimate verdict was that Steve Manning gets $6.5 million, which is like insane. But that's how the system works. I mean, it's just how it works. But I had to testify to just, what did they give me? Like, what did the FBI give me to testify against these people? They let you have sex whenever you want when you're incarcerated. They clear out the FBI office and you can bring whoever you want up there. Guys are allowed to bring whatever they want back into the jail. As a matter of fact, until you're officially in WITSEC and witness protection, the FBI handles you. But once you're officially in WITSEC, once you're official Department of Justice witness protection, then the marshals take over. And it's like it's free for all. And so we sat there and literally with a paper and a pen on the witness stand, started calculating how much they pay you. And it was about $250,000. To me, personally, about $250,000. Not to mention all the dog and pony shit, buying my family a new house, getting them new cars, getting our new identity. It had to be at least $500,000, if not $1 million, for one trial. And that's where your tax dollars go, in the name of justice. Kind of fuck it up.
Fascinating life you've lived.
Huh?
Fascinating life you've lived.
You have no idea. I mean, you have no, dude, I got bullet holes all over me. I got stab wounds all over me.
Do you regret letting that, leading that life?
No, because it led me to where I am now.
You're happy?
No one's going to catch me slipping. Never going to happen.
You showed up here with 4 bodyguards.
I'm well protected. And I'm pretty good at defending
Because you're
myself.
worried about the cops as well as the mob, right?
I'm more worried about the cops.
Is the mob still even existent in
Oh,
Chicago?
yeah, they're alive and well.
Yeah.
But they refined their skill set because cash isn't king anymore. Now it's all credit, so you got to figure out how to tax credit. And that's harder to do. Paper dollars, you put them in a bag and walk away with them. But it's the cops you got to worry about. The cops I put away are so old, they're incapacitated. But they all got, because nepotism in the Chicago PD, I mean, that's the only way you're going to get hired, right? Aside from affirmative action. And so what happens is their nephews, sons, grandsons are now cops. And if the wrong cop sees me bouncing down the street, which by the way, I look immensely different than I did in those days. I'll show you a picture later. But yeah, the wrong cop catches me, I'm catching one in the head. So I stay clear of Taylor Street. You ever go to Taylor Street?
I've been there many times. LB.
Okay, so you got Taylor, right? 2 blocks south is Roosevelt.
Yeah.
2 blocks north is the Congress Expressway.
Yeah.
So I'm 1 block north on Flournoy. You got Racine. 1 block east is May. So I am on Flournoy and May. So basically Taylor and Racine. I'm a diagonal 1 block away.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up my whole life.
It's a great neighborhood.
They've gentrified it a lot. The area they used to call Jewtown, Maxwell Street, all wiped out. All wiped out. Now, I'm not supposed to tell anybody, but I've been back. But when I went back, dude, I went in the dead of winter on purpose, scarfed up, sunglasses, hat, hoodie. Like you would have never known it was me. But I rode through Jewtown, and I couldn't believe what I saw. It's complete. It's UIC now. They bought up all the property.
Yeah.
What else you want to know?
That's it. That's all I need to know. That's a lot.
All right.
It's a hell of a story.
Can I tell you, I brought those papers that day, right?
Yeah.
And you're busy. Now I understood in retrospect why you didn't want to see them. Everything I've told you is documented through the court records. Every single thing.
Yeah.
There's not one thing I've told you that varies in any way from what I've already testified to and passed polygraphs on. So,
You're a great storyteller.
well, I hope you make a lot of money. I hope you make a lot of money. Dude, you're a good guy. I want to tell you, I was trepidatious in the beginning because I'm not Johnny Handsome, right? I'm just a guy. And
You're a good looking dude.
no, I'm just a guy. I'm balding. I battled cancer now for a while. Other things have gone on in my life. I've lost everybody. Mom, dad, brother, everybody's dead. So I'm going to tell you, I'm just a guy. And at this point in life, I don't give a fuck who knows my story. Like, what are you going to do? You're not going to run up on me and beat my ass. That ain't going to happen. If you shoot me, I'm going to die eventually. So I'd rather die quickly to a bullet than slowly to prostate cancer. It's a better way to go.
All right. Tommy Dye, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. You've been like super hospitable.
I make it easy for you.
You did.